Hey, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
What's your name?
My name is Carmina Amza.
Brilliant. And you're an astrologer from Romania?
Yes, I'm an astrologer and I also practice card reading with cards of truth, and I also practice human design.
Okay. Do you have a website?
My website is carmina-amza.com and I have a YouTube channel with the same name, Carmina Amza.
Brilliant. Yeah, I actually watch your YouTube channel and I knew about you, and I didn't know because your English is so good, I didn't know you were from Romania. Actually, I just thought you were another astrology YouTuber that I watched.
Oh, thank you very much.
So how or what city are you from?
Well, originally I'm from the northeast of Romania, a city called Roman, but I've been living in Bucharest since I was 18, 19, since I started university. So
Okay. And how old are you now?
now I'm almost 36.
Okay. Do you share your birth details?
Of course, my birth date is September 10, 1983, 11:45 a.m. in Roman, Romania.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Scorpio rising with Moon and Saturn on the ascendant, and I don't know.
Sure.
The Sun is in Virgo.
Okay, that's your big three. What type of astrology do you practice?
I practice tropical astrology and I use Vedic principles, but I also use what I learned from Western astrology. I use outer planets and things like that. And I'm not blocked or set on one type of astrology. I just want things that get the job done correctly and precisely.
Sure, but you have, over the past few years, you've developed a real passion for studying Indian astrology or Vedic astrology?
Yes, since 2016, so maybe 3 years. I've after some hiatus from astrology, I found Ernst Wilhelm, who was teaching Vedic principles with a tropical zodiac, and I resonated very much with that.
Mhm.
So I accumulated a lot of knowledge, and I incorporated that in my practice quite successfully, I would say.
Yeah, it seems like you're one of the major Vedic astrologers that uses the tropical zodiac today.
Yeah, there's a few of us. I think the number is increasing. I think people initially they are a bit reluctant because they think, oh, this culture is so different from mine. This is like old stuff. How can it be, valid today?
Mhm.
But there are some principles that are archetypal that you can identify with, like the same problems we had many thousands of years ago. So I would say that's why it's becoming more popular, because like younger people also related to the pop culture and to, their own problems and the problems of their friends. So I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably an easier entry point into Vedic astrology than some other ways in terms of not having to deal with also changing the zodiac.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, because some people are confused because when they hear I practice Jyotish, they're like, we are using sidereal, like my chart changes, but it's actually not like that because the signs are tropical, like in Western astrology.
Mhm.
But we also use nakshatras and other techniques and other things like planetary conditions to find out, the quality of a planet, how a person feels about that planet. So there's a lot of things that improve the quality of the readings, I would say.
Sure. Why did you get interested in astrology, or what made you passionate about it?
Well, my first contact with astrology was in the early 90s. Actually, I was reading comic books, Mickey Mouse Club, and I saw there was a little leaflet with the sun signs and the birthstone, but it was just like a tiny leaflet.
Okay.
But afterwards, I found in my aunt's bookshelf, I found a book about sun signs, Linda Goodman, and then I found a book about compatibility. I was about 10. And from then on, I was self-taught for a long time because it just, catches you. And then I was writing down in my notebooks my friends, birth dates and what signs are they and are they compatible.
Mm.
So things like that. And then, I just read a lot of books. I studied with the local astrology school here, but then I wanted something more. So I found the classes, online classes. I took, I think, Robin Armstrong School of Astrology in Canada. I had a scholarship, and then, later on, Ernst, his website is full of information and other, sources of Vedic astrology. So that's
Sure.
in a nutshell.
And you have done work as a professional translator and
Mm-hmm.
have a great skill with languages. Do you feel like that's given you greater opportunities in terms of your astrological studies?
Yes, actually, I do speak a lot of languages, 5 so far, and I think it is because it's decoding. Astrology is also decoding some symbols and translating it, for the person to resonate with. So definitely, and also identifying when you speak a different language, you identify with that culture a little bit and their way of being. So I think it's also good for empathizing and understanding different cultures and people and being more maybe accepting.
Sure. What are your observations in terms of astrology in Romania? It seems like when I came here, there's a lot more younger people that are interested in astrology here than I expected, and that seems to be consistent with like more young people getting into it in other countries as well.
Mhm.
Is that like a true perception? Do you feel like there's younger people entering the field here as well at this point in time?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's more younger people entering. Still, Romania as a whole regards astrology as like something a bit eccentric or something a bit like from for the glossy magazines, just like the daily horoscope. Or so usually people don't really get deep into it. And when you say you're an astrologer, they look at you a bit suspiciously, like, hmm. But I think there's like a general more openness because of this younger generation, millennials and after them, that are more like open to the global culture and learning about different things. So yeah, I would say like the faces we saw at the festival are also younger people. So I would say yes, there
Yeah,
are. Mhm.
it seemed like a really good mixture of different people.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we didn't really keep in touch with each other. For instance, I met a girl that I've known like for like 10, 15 years, but I've known her from seeing her. We went out in the same places, we listened to like similar music, and now we're like, wow. So we were both interested in astrology. That's nice.
Right. It seems like one of the issues I run into with younger astrologers is since they talk so much online, they don't see as much value meeting up in person. And I was wondering if you've had that experience or if you, I don't know, feel differently having attended like this week about attending events in person and if it's personalized it or made it more interesting for you in any way.
Mm-hmm. I have to say that I mean, I wanted to come and see you, but I was like a bit reluctant because of the type of of astrology that I practice. And this is like really weird for most people. So I
Mhm.
was like, But then, like, when I came and I saw like everyone and I got to talk to them and meet them and like warm up to each other, like, it was really nice. So I would recommend to everyone to come to these things. And like you were saying, like, you can initiate your own little group. You don't have to make something super fancy, just like a informal gathering, like just have a tea or something at a cafe and talk about astrology.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, that's really important to create like little groups. Even though you're not all studying the same style of astrology, I'm sure you can interchange, like the Greeks interchange with the Hindus thousands of years ago.
Yeah, and we noticed just talking after my presentation just how many similarities in some ways there are between Hellenistic and Vedic astrology, so
Hmm.
that there's more room for discussion in many ways.
Yes, definitely. There are, like we were talking exactly, and not just similarities, but maybe some things that were lost in one of them,
Hmm.
and you can fill in the gaps because the old texts don't survive intact,
Right,
and also translations are maybe not the best ones always. So I think there's room to learn from each other and
definitely.
overlap and find a common denominator and see what works, because that's what we want to do.
Sure. Maybe one of your additional languages that you'll add to your collection someday is Sanskrit.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about that, but then I'm like, oh my God, but probably I will have to do it because I'm curious, about, you have to have a feeling for the text in any language. When you translate, you have to have a feeling. And if you're an astrologer and you already know the astrology language and then you know Sanskrit, it's much better than a person who is just an astrologer or just a linguist. So if you have both, I think that would be a good work.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
And then let's see, finally, The last thing I meant to ask was, oh yeah, you mentioned an interesting transit. You had a really good Saturn return story, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, on my Saturn return, like the exact minute and second, I took my daughter from home from the hospital after I gave birth. So, Saturn brought me a daughter, and actually, my father has the same degree, Saturn, as me, the same degree in minutes. So, I was his Saturn return, and my daughter was my Saturn return. So, it's
Wow.
interesting how it came down, the family tree. And I love to look at like families together to look at their patterns. Because, for instance, another thing in our family, like women have Mars in Leo from my mother's side. And there's a lot of Sun in Gemini. In my family, I have the North Node in Gemini, so I have to learn about what they already are good in. So it's really interesting how the family dynamics work, how you're part of like a weave of something.
Right. How many Mars and Leos are there in your mother's side?
Like 3, including me, 4, like
So it's
down
like
the line.
your great-grandmother.
Yeah, my grandmother, my mother, me, and my daughter has Mars in Sagittarius, so still a fire sign, but a bit more mature than the third one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. So people can find out more information about you on your YouTube channel, and that's something you're really passionate about building. You also do a podcast?
Yes, I started to do a podcast. I think we're going to make it a separate channel. We only published one pilot episode. So myself and a friend, also, astrologer, human design, interested, Denise Matthews, we're going to talk about, current topics in pop culture from the prism of these esoteric sciences. So yeah, we're going to focus on just talking and not being very visual, because myself included, sometimes you just listen to the videos on your headphones, or you don't really watch because you're doing other things. So I think a podcast is a good idea. So
do you have any other major plans in terms of your work with astrology in the future?
Well, last year I collaborated like on an introductory book with a colleague of mine, Levi Kozan, which we also use as a manual for our classes. Some introductory principles into astrology, mainly from Vedic sources. And I'm also a lot into the card reading system that is quite fixed, but also uses astrology and numerology. So I'm teaching a lot of classes of astrology, cards, and I got my own card deck. I want to draw another card deck soon. And I don't know if I, have, I would like to write some more interesting and useful things about astrology. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, you have a card deck. Tell me about that.
It's called the Carmina deck of cards of truth. And it uses the cards of truth principles. It's like very minimalistic and pretty. And you can see also the number correlations. Like it's quite an easy system, but it's very accurate for card reading manually, or you can find it on my website, Carmina Amza. You'll see their section card deck. So yeah, you'll see that. Also.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on, and I really admire your work and I loved your workshop.
Awesome. Thank you.